super excited to have you guys here. So I know we're having a little bit of an offsite for the holiday season. We got the whole team in town out here in the desert in Phoenix. And I thought it'd be fun just to share some of the projects and stories that we have done with clients. So a couple really great guests, some of our great revenue operations managers here with us today, and just want to hear what's happening in the field, some of the most exciting or fun projects you've worked on. And then another thing that might be fun too is just going into some of the latest go-to-market tools that you really like. We know there's new ones on the market all the time. So anything that you think is fun or interesting or take a unique approach to something would be awesome. So I think maybe John, it'd be great to kick it to you. John, thanks for being out here too, traveling from Vancouver.
Loving it. Phoenix native now. I feel like 2 weeks in the desert.
Yeah.
Traveling everywhere. It's great. I love it.
I've lived here my whole life, and I think you know Phoenix better than I do. So,
you know what's funny too is it's more Christmassy here than in Canada. Like the amount of Christmas lights and everything going on is really cool.
It's probably because we celebrate anything not summer.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my goodness, yes, finally.
Cold. Yay.
It's still 70 degrees outside right now.
I know. We were at a gathering that was outside, and it was like too hot to be outside a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, happy to have you here. And I just think, what's a good story or one of the projects you've worked on that you think has been really interesting since you've been here at LeanScale?
Yeah, absolutely. The one that comes to mind kind of first and foremost is a big sales segmentation, territory planning design that we did for one of our customers, and a really high growth customer. When I started with LeanScale only a couple months ago, I think they had 5 or 6 account executives, and they're now at well over 25, I think. And that growth requires chopping and changing the territories and making sure that it's equitable across the board. It is future-proofed for future growth. And so we really approached this from the get-go. One of the big learnings from this is the amount of planning that you need to do at the outset of a project like this is the most important and most crucial piece of this. Because as you start to build out the sales segments, the territories, and what you're trying to accomplish, you really need to have a good grasp of what you're trying to do now, but what you're trying to do 6, 12 months from now. And we were able to, some of the complexities that were in there are, they wanted strategic named accounts to be involved in this. They wanted PubSec accounts where they're partitioning out the public sector as well because of privacy issues with the public sector. So there were a lot of components that went into this. We're still working on it, so it's not totally finalized yet. So it's been a really kind of eye-opening experience. It's been really fun to kind of craft that with this customer. It's been tremendously impactful for them as well because they can bring on account executives now and immediately deploy them and have them in a territory where they can see their top accounts. The routing system is set up to immediately point new accounts to the appropriate reps, which gives them that time to value so that if a new account comes in, it's easily identified, it's easily in the hands of the account executives and the BDRs, and they're able to start their selling process and get them through the motions. So yeah, that's kind of been the high level view of what we've done there.
That's insane growth. Absolutely insane. So you said within a couple of months, they went from 5 to 28?
I think it's 25.
25.
And growing, yeah.
And growing. I don't know. Have you all been on engagements that have had like that level of rep growth in a couple of months?
In a couple of months, I would say probably not really in one specific department. It's usually much more spread out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like quota carrying rep growth, that's
it's the quickest I've ever seen, and it's fast paced and moving at the speed of light over there, and they're selling. I mean the demand for what they're doing is there. And excited to see how this kind of translate into revenue growth for them in the coming year.
What type of tools did it involve too? Like you mentioned lead routing. I'm assuming a lot of CRM work. Anything else that was?
A lot of CRM work. And one of the biggest components is ensuring that the data providers that you're using can support the identifying stuff like geographic. Where are the headquarters? Understanding account hierarchies as well. So one of the big components is bringing in the right data providers, spending time and vetting the right data providers to make sure that they can provide you accurate data for what you're looking for, and then not relying on one. But you have to bring in multiple sources to provide what you need, and then stack ranking them and building them into the logic of how you're routing the accounts. So data providers were the big one. We brought in 3 different data providers in this time to facilitate this.
Which ones did you have to bring in?
There was Cognism, D&B as kind of the big hairy one, and then KeyPlay are the 3 primary data providers that are being used to facilitate that.
Very nice.
And Cognism is more specifically, they do North American stuff, but they're specifically for the EMEA region. So this is global, APAC, EMEA, all around the world. And we found that Cognism so far has been really good in coverage for those EMEA accounts.
Very cool. Very cool. And I'm guessing it's not over. So as they continue to grow, we're going to continue to iterate. And
yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to that planning comment. As we go through these projects, I think everyone can relate to, you reflect on it. How could we do this better the next time around? And just spending more time on that planning piece, because it changes through implementation. You forget about a piece that was really crucial, or something gets slipped, and so there's constant evolution of that planning.
Awesome. Yeah, I think territory planning, design, most of the companies we work with, they're trying to grow really quickly.
Yeah.
And I always think about territories as if you're going out mining for gold, your sales team is your group of gold miners, and you have to know which mountains have the most gold in them, so you can get your sales team working on them. So making sure you get them with equitable territories, it's really efficient. I know this one can be a little controversial sometimes, but getting your best reps in the best territories so they can be as effective as possible, I think gives the company the best chance to win.
Yeah, that certainly was an element too within that. So yeah, good point.
You can send out the stack ranking of talent later, and we can share that with the
There we go.
Whitney, how about you? I know you've been on a ton of different types of engagements, working with really, really big companies that are just pre-IPO, all the way down to companies just starting out. But what's one of the projects that you've worked on that you just thought was really interesting and really unique?
I would say probably my first big project after I came into LeanScale. It was immediately sink or swim with this project just due to the sheer size of it. So within this company's billing software, it made a lot of sense. They already had this super intuitive account hierarchy that was already implemented. However, in the CRM, right, you typically see the typical parent-child. You might even see a grandfather account. That process didn't really speak to what they needed. So we ended up with a 5-tier account hierarchy. And I honestly think the most impressive thing about this project was that they were selling to each layer, which was absolutely insane. So it impacted the way marketing was engaging with these accounts. It impacted the way sales was engaging with these accounts. So it was a huge project for their revenue.
Very cool. So you're tying in, I'm assuming, the quote to cash process everywhere from aligning the accounts to the right reps, and then developing a quote, and then bringing that down to the billing system. And did they have billing, like if you had a grandfather account, you had multiple levels of accounts underneath it? Were they needing to roll up all of that data for billing and for sales?
Oh, absolutely, which was very fun, as you can imagine. We had the top shell account. So this account could be paying for software access for not only themselves, but for locations. Locations were tier 2. So they could either be paying for the software on their own as well, or retroactively having access due to the first tier. And then after that, we had the contacts that lived on third tier that were associated with the second tier. And then underneath, yes. And then
I feel like this is a Christopher Nolan, like CRM Inception type of movie, but
yes, it just keeps going. And then we had the vendors. The vendors were either getting access through the location they were associated with or on their own. And then finally, we had the warehouses as well that were going through that same model. And they could just be paying for software access, or they could be paying for data from the platform itself. It was a beast, an absolute beast. Would I do it again? We'll see. But as of right now, I'll give myself like a 40%. I'd hop in again.
yeah, if we have to only. Did you bring any extra technology, or was a lot of this just custom built in the CRM? How did you and the team approach it?
Oh, this was very much so custom built. So we were pushing the CRM to its limits. So we were not incorporating any external technology to really enable this process because it was just so, it was heavily customized is the best way to say it. And they could not afford to run into blockers that, hey, let's implement a solution to make this easier. However, you're going to be sacrificing certain data points. It was insane.
You can, I think there's a twist on the top of it, just in case.
Brainy, bro, God. It's not moving.
Okay, now there, it's, I don't know why. Is there, oh, maybe the one above that?
No, it's definitely that one. I'm used to working a lumber yard, so you can probably.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Hands down.
Can I finish that just?
Yeah, that was perfect. Yeah, that's cuttable. I have a follow-up question, and then we can keep going after that. So in this case, which CRM were they on? Were they on Salesforce, HubSpot?
Oh, they were on Salesforce.
Yeah. Would it have even been possible otherwise? It sounds like it was barely possible with Salesforce.
Controversial statement, but I don't think that we would have been able to go as deep as we did in HubSpot. I think this is definitely one of those moments where, you know, each platform has their own pros and cons, but for heavy customization where you're pulling in your engineers, you're doing coding, you need to essentially narrow down the scope to just one software. That would be Salesforce, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, I think HubSpot's doing an incredible job. They've really grown their capabilities. I think they're really making it possible to stay on HubSpot longer. But there are just some complex cases where Salesforce is just better for that customization at this point. But who knows? Things change all the time. Yeah.
They're on the way, though.
They are on the way. Yeah, they're doing a great job. Great job. And I'm happy that there's some competition because I want somebody on Salesforce's heels a little bit and pushing them to innovate too. Well, that's great. Well, Izzy, you've been with LeanScale for a long time, since pretty much the very beginning. And I know recently you started to take on your own engagements. But just curious, in your experience, you've seen a lot of different work here. You've been on a lot of different projects. What's a project that you found really interesting and helped drive real business impact?
Yeah, thanks. For my favorite project over my time here, I would say was getting to be a part of a ICP and TAM analysis for one of our high-growing customers as well. It was really awesome to help align the sales and marketing team and get to be a part of that united target for them. So that was really awesome. We got to really work with high leadership in the company and help them build out their ideal customer profile by just analyzing their current customer base, finding those key characteristics for their best customers, and then using that to go find their total addressable market. So after meeting with their leadership and figuring out what's the best industries, what's the best revenue targets for them, and then getting to use that to pull in multiple different sources, and then use that into a analysis deep dive of getting to find what's best for them and where they can target their best sales efforts for the next year was awesome. And it also overlapped with them getting to hire more people, really see where they're really achieve their sales targets for the next year, and just getting to create a whole package that they were able to use and utilize for their own targets.
Yeah, I think there's probably nothing more impactful than making sure you're aligning your go-to-market efforts towards people who have a high propensity to buy. So people who are interested in your product, the low-hanging fruit, go after them first. And I think a lot of times we skip maybe to, okay, well, what's the selling tactic? What's the selling method? What are the processes and how can we really refine our messaging? And we skip that step of working on the ICP. Like when it's really early in the morning and I'm on my way here for an event or something, I don't need a lot of selling to drive through Starbucks and get a coffee. I'm just in their ICP at that moment.
Exactly.
So I think if companies can really think about like, who really needs our help? Like who has the absolute most pain? And how do we start aligning our GDM efforts there first and then start working down the various tiers of your ICP? That should create the most outcome, even if your sales methods and tactics aren't running as efficiently, as effectively as possible.
Yeah, like what John had said earlier, I think it's really important to prioritize the first stage of planning. And with an ideal customer profile, it's all planning. I think analyzing your best customers and what they all have alike is extremely important. And then using that to go find even more best customers for you. And then creating those segments of this is our number one ideal customer. And then we should find the entire market for that and then use that. And instead of just like you said, going through and I'm going to do it anyways.
How often do we see, and this is more a question for you, Anthony, with your kind of breadth of experience, we talk about the growth model and revisiting the growth model like every half year or annually. How often should you revisit your ICP and validate the assumptions you made or the findings you had initially? Because to me, it sounds like that can evolve very quickly over time, depending on what the market's looking for, who you've found successes with. If you only have 50 customers, you are making assumptions here. Like how often should that be revisited?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I would throw it in the cadence of when you review your growth model. And we recommend doing that quarterly. So by the time you get through a full quarter, you should have some performance to plan information, and you should be able to start to get some insights as to which segments are converting, which segments are you actually closing, which segments are you building more pipeline in, and then also which ones are more sticky and retaining too, and which ones are more satisfied. I mean, I think if I think about our own business, who LeanScale's ICP is, that's definitely evolved over time.
Yeah.
And it's evolved over time as the market has changed. When we started, we started, probably wasn't the best time. We started right at the end of growth at all costs mindset. So we brought on quite a few initial customers where, they're burning money left and right. They don't care. They need to grow, and they'll throw as much ops, sales, marketing as they can at the problem to make it happen. Pretty quickly, that transitioned into tech winter, lots of layoffs, interest rates started climbing. And we started to find there was a huge portion of the market that really wanted to grow efficiently. And they were investing in ops for that reason. But that was a different profile. Mm-hmm. It was a little bit more like PE, growth equity type of investment rather than like VC, super early stage. So ours has evolved over time too. And then the other one is as we've added capabilities. So we always did core general rev ops, but recently we've added marketing operations, like a really specialized practice for that. We've added data engineering, sales, and CS ops specialties as well. So with those, that opened up actually the upper end of the market for us because we were a little bit more specialized, and they may have general rev ops figured out, but they may need help in a very specific portion of rev ops. So I'd say quarterly would be a good cadence. And I think you're right. The more you can refine that, because it's going to evolve, the better, and it'll increase your opportunity to win.
Yep.
Izzy, back to yours real quick. What type of tools did you use or what process? Like really specifically, how did you get it done?
Yeah. Sorry, this is a side note beside the podcast. I know the names of the tools, but I don't know the like overall branch of what the tool type is called.
Just name the tools.
Like we used ZoomInfo and all, but I don't want to say those.
You can say ZoomInfo.
Oh, okay. We use like predominant. Okay. Yeah. So the tools that we used to create this analysis were we would pull a lot of data from ZoomInfo and then use that compared to our ideal customer profile and then refine it from there through whether it was target industries, target revenue count, target employee size. Then we would refine it through there through our favorite platform, Google Sheets. And yeah, then we would just continue to, prioritize what we thought the best customer was through using that. We also used just public data through Fortune 500, Fortune 5000 lists, really targeting those large enterprises. And yeah, that's how we created that list specific for this client. We would use certain other lists depending on, I guess, the ideal fit for that company.
Did you end up uploading this data into their CRM and tag any of those records with some of the data?
Yeah, so after we created this, we were able to upload all of this data into their CRM. They used Salesforce. Mm-hmm. So we uploaded all of this data into Salesforce. And then from there, we were able to create another project of a territory plan from there for their reps. And then have all of those reps assigned to all of these new accounts for them so that they could hit the ground running and starting to sell these customers.
Awesome. Well, I know it's been an incredible year. You all have had so many different types of projects that you've completed under your belt, but I really appreciate you sharing them. Hopefully it's inspiring for some other people out there doing RevOps and gives a little bit of a glimpse into the type of work we do here as well. Whether somebody's thinking about bringing us on to help their team or if somebody's interested in getting into RevOps consulting or go-to-market consulting. Just appreciate you sharing and I hope we all enjoy the end of the year and kick off the next year strong.
Awesome.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.
Awesome.